Mr. White Christmas, he's Mr. Snow.
That's right.
He's Mr. Icicle, he's Mr. Tenderloin.
Heavy snows in the Mountain West and the Great Lakes may have you wondering, could we possibly see a white Christmas in your neighborhood? Let's take an early look. Coming up next. Hey, before we get going, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell for future updates. Hey, welcome back to the channel, my fellow weather junkies. I'm your host, Greg Majeski, your personal weatherman here with a special update here on Could You See a White Christmas 2024. So the first thing we're going to look at here is we're going to look at the current snow depths as of this December 2nd, 2024. As we take a look over here, you can see most of the snow is currently concentrated really in several areas. Obviously, we got a pretty good coverage out here across the Intermountain region out here in the higher elevations. We definitely have seen plenty of snow here across the areas of the Great Lakes, and we've also got some pretty good coverage here across the areas of the Northeast. So we're looking at about 25% of the country currently seeing some sort of snow depth. But the question is, what are we going to see when we get closer to Christmas Day? Let's take a look at the climatology to see where we typically see a white Christmas. So what we're looking at right here for comparison is the probability of a white Christmas. We're going to look back in the last 50 years and we're looking statistically, where do we typically see a white Christmas? And there you see areas there in that white. You know, here out in the Intermountain region, obviously, you're going to see, obviously, white Christmas. We got plenty of snow out there right now. Typically up around Minnesota and up toward Wisconsin. Areas of the Northeast, obviously seeing a very high probability of seeing a white Christmas. Now, of course, you folks down here in the South, it's a different story. It's a less than 5% chance you're going to see anything like that. Although there have been, circumstances and that have been a little different from year to year. I do recall back in 2010 where we had snow well far south in areas I don't typically see it. So just because the probability map says, no, you're not going to get it, it doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen. The things that I'm going to be looking for as we get closer to the big day there on Christmas is the availability of cold air and where any potential moisture may be running into that cold air. And we got to see how the evolution of the overall weather pattern looks like by the time we get to Christmas Day. So with that said, let's look at the current forecast trends and see what they're beginning to show us. Now, one of my favorite forecasting tools that I like to use when I'm kind of looking at where the cold air is going to set up across the continental United States and where we're going to get those cold snaps, it's called the North Atlantic Oscillation. There's two different phases that this is in. So we're going to zoom in a little bit closer here, and you see all those red squiggly lines? All these regular squiggly lines up here are different forecasting models right now. Okay, now when you look back historically, let's go look back here last month or so, okay? You notice like when you look back in October, middle of October, going to about the end of November, we were in a positive phase. Here's the solid line, that's 0 right there. And above that line, that means that we were cold in the west and we were pretty warm in the east. And then you notice we went down into the negative phase here as we got down here toward the end of November and going toward December. We got into a negative phase, which means the cold air was coming mostly across the eastern part of the United States. Now, the trend right now, as it looks, is we got one more little cold shot, and then we're kind of trending upward. We're going above that line as we go toward December, into the middle of December. So the middle of the month looks like we're going to see that things begin to flip. We're going to see the milder air in the east, and we're going to see we'll see colder air in the west. So what that means is that the snow probability, at least the storm track probability, will be higher snows out into the western portion of the United States and reduce that in the east because it should be milder in the east. Now, the question is, we go positive on the 15th. Does it stay up there for a prolonged period of time like we did back here between October and November? Does it stay up that high? Or is it just a temporary bump, go up for a few days, and then it tracks negative again as we go toward Christmas Day? So we're still about 3 weeks out. So that's what I'm going to be watching very closely, is what is that trend going to be? So with that said, let's go see what the Climate Prediction Center folks are talking about here as we look out for the rest of the month of December. So the latest December outlook from the Climate Prediction Center just was issued a few days ago. So we're going to first take a look at the temperature profile, okay? So right now, what it's showing is it looks like the eastern chance of the United States, especially the Northeast, has got a better chance of seeing colder temperatures up this way, while most of the Mountain West looks like it's going to see temperatures running above average. Now, with that being said, as far as the short term is concerned, it does appear that we're going to be heading toward a bit of a transition, as I showed you from the North Atlantic Oscillation forecasting, where that may be a temporary cool down the west. But the trend as we head toward Christmas might be a little bit colder in the east. Now, what about precipitation? What is that showing? Let's take a look at that profile here. And from what I can see here, it does appear that we're going to see that chance for more of those Great Lakes snows to be augmented across Michigan and into areas of Pennsylvania and New York, that continuing. And even though the temperatures up here may be running a bit above average, it may be a little snowier there across the Intermountain region, especially with the elevation there across Idaho and into areas of Montana. Now, the dry areas, of course, will be areas across the southwestern portion of the United States, Southern California, and we get a little more precipitation down here across the deep south, which, of course, we're not talking about any snow down that way. But right now, it looks like it's going to be a timing issue of when we get later in the month. Where does the cold air set up, and where does the storm track set up as we go deeper into the month? So let's just go ahead and take a look at the snow probability as far as the forecast is going for the next 360 hours. We're going to look at the European model here and see what it's showing where we may get snow as we go deeper into the month of December. So we're going to focus specifically on where we're expecting the snow to break out here over the next couple of weeks. We're looking at a 15-day model here from the European model. And although I know it's subject to change, it just kind of gives us an idea of what to lock onto. So we're going to first take a look at the first 120 hours. We're looking at the next 5 days. And these are going to be pretty much in the forecast parameters where I think we could say we got a pretty good feel that we're going to see something like this come to fruition. So right now, as has been the trend here over the last week or so, we're going to see a lot of heavy lake effect snows in this area. Some of the interior sections of New England getting in on the snow action here through December the 7th. So the next 5 days, those are going to be your target zones for the heavy snow to continue. You notice we got a little bit of flurry activity in here across portions of the south. Don't worry about that. That's not going to really accumulate all that much. It'll be a brief hit and run, especially there across the Appalachians. But for the most part, that's what we're looking at here for the next 120 hours. How about 240? Let's go out to 240 hours. Let's go out for the next 10 days. So we're going to take us out to 240. And still kind of seeing those target zones. Starting to see a little bit more action out here in the west finally. First 5 days was pretty quiet. And we're adding a little bit more there across the Great Lakes. Then as we go out to 360, we start to see some storm systems begin to materialize, and we see some additional snows there across the west and across the central portion of the United States. So now we're getting some pretty good heavy snows here across portions of Minnesota and into Wisconsin, even getting some snows down into portions of Kansas, Missouri, and Nebraska. And we're definitely seeing some higher totals there across Idaho and the higher elevations of the Cascade Mountains across Oregon and into Washington State. So this takes us out to roughly about a week before Christmas. So the trend is we're going to get a little more snow activity break out across different portions of the country beyond the 5 day. 5 day predominantly into the Northeast and the Great Lakes. And then beyond that, as we go toward the middle of the month, we'll see a little more activity out in the West. And we'll see a little more activity there across the high plains, especially across Minnesota and Wisconsin. And that'll do it for this special outlook here for that White Christmas forecast. As we get further into the month, I will definitely be keeping a watchful eye on that. So look for further updates on your potential White Christmas forecast as we get closer and closer to Christmas. Again, we're still 3 weeks out. Things are always subject to change, and I'll make sure I keep you up to date as we head deeper into the month of December of whether the chances for you seeing a White Christmas go up go down. All right, that'll do it for this edition. If you can do me a favor, please subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content. And as always, if there's something you'd like to see in reports like these or other things, please leave a comment down below and give me a thumbs up. All right, that's it for now. You guys take it easy. Be good, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.